Woo! What's up, everyone? Coach Dan back again for day 41 of our at-home OTF workouts. And today's workout, we got lower body, we got core, and a whole lot more. So focusing on a lot of those important muscle groups, and of course, bringing you some cardio intervals as well. So it's definitely going to be a good one and a challenging one. Hope to see you all getting involved and posting and sharing on social media. And of course, why not join us live on Zoom? You're definitely going to feel that you get a whole lot more accountability and motivation when you join us on Zoom. So it'll be great to see you there. Either way, guys, have a great one and see you soon.
Time to get started with your dynamic warm-up. You've got 5 movements, 1 minute of each, 1 full round. Dee, you ready to get started?
I am, let's do it.
All right, we're gonna start things off with 1 minute of a standing alternating Spider-Man. Feet hip-width apart, arms extended overhead, squeezing the oblique, making contact between the elbow and knee. An option here, you can reduce your range of motion. Next up, we've got 1 minute of a sumo squat to stand. Our feet are nice and wide beyond hip width apart, chest nice and tall, bringing our hands down to the ground. From here, pressing through the hands to raise the hips up in the air, straightening out your legs, working those hamstrings. Back to your starting position. Option here, use whatever squat depth you feel most comfortable with. Hands don't necessarily have to come down to the ground. Next up, 1 minute of a crouching downward facing dog. Starting in a high plank position, pressing through the hands, raising the hips into the air, keeping the legs straight. From here, dropping your knees down, hovering, raising it back up. An option here, reduce the depth as you drop those knees down to the ground. Next up, 1 minute of an alternating wide mountain climber with a rotation. As you can see, Dee is rotating to the inside towards that front knee, coming back to her high plank and alternating sides. An option here, you can drop that back knee if you need to. Last but not least, we're gonna come down to the ground. We got 1 minute of what we're calling a scorpion. Arms extended, those toes are anchored to start things off. We're gonna raise one heel up, rotating, trying to make contact with the opposite hand, really working that T-spine, then switching sides. An option here, reduce the range of motion, trying to reach the hand, find what's available to you. You've got 1 minute of each movement. Let's get warmed up.
capable of burning the furnace. We are. Too hot to take a hold, just like the firecrackers. We are firecrackers. We are fire. We are firecrackers. We are fire.
All right, time to work those glutes. We've got 8 minutes of work here. We're going to start with 3 rounds of 2 exercises using the mini bands. D, we're going to go ahead, put on that mini band in the mid band position. Now, when applying this, we want to make sure that we're in a seated position, 1 foot in at a time, making sure the band lays nice and flat just below the knee. We're going to start things off with 24 total reps of an iso squat toe tap. Feet start hip width apart to maintain tension, working those hip flexors. As you can see, D is working side to side. How's it feeling?
Starting to burn.
There it is. Chest is nice and tall here. Options, you can always go down to a green band if you need to. Next up, we have 12 reps per side of a standing kickback. Shoulders are nice and tall. We're still maintaining that tension on the band, raising that heel slightly off the ground. A little bit of range goes a long way here. Maintain balance by drawing your belly button to the spine. Options, once again, you can drop down to a green band if you need to. Once you're done with 3 rounds, you're going to go ahead, take off that band. You still have 3 exercises that you're going to complete until time is called. We're going to start with 12 reps per side of a curtsy lunge into a knee raise. Feet start hip width apart, stepping behind the front foot, making sure that knee drops just behind the foot. Driving up, bringing the knee just off center to hip height. Options here, you can reduce the depth of your lunge. Next up, this one's going to be a bit of a burner. We're going to start with 6 reps of a static lunge. So we're going to kickstand 1 foot back. Our toes are aligned on those 2 train tracks, chest nice and tall. 6 reps, dropping that knee as low to the ground as we can. Once we're done with that final rep, we're going to hold it right there. You've got 12 reps of a pulsing half lunge. Options here, play around with that range of motion if you need to. Last but not least, we're going to get a little powerful to close things out. 12 reps of a jump squat. Feet are hip width apart, shoulders nice and tall. We're getting nice and low, loading up those heels and exploding, getting a little bit of air underneath those toes. An option here, squat into a calf raise. Once again, you're going to repeat those 3 exercises till time is called. Embrace that burn.
Are you ready to get your heart rate up? Yes or yes, John?
I mean, what other option do I have?
That's what we're gonna do in this next 10-minute block. We have 3 different plank variations, all of them on an incline. So you will need a step stool, a box, or you can even use the stairs in your house as long as it's nice and sturdy. So again, 3 incline plank variations, all for 30 seconds each, but wedged in between those, we're gonna do some box jumps, stair jumps, or step ups if we need to. Let's get to our first plank variation. Stack those shoulders directly over top of those wrists so there's a straight line from your ear all the way down to that ankle, keeping that core tight and those hips nice and stable. From here, it's a plank jack. So you're gonna jump your feet out and then jump them back together. Again, trying not to bounce up and down, really using that core to drive the movement. Your option, as you can see John doing, stepping out and stepping back in. Again, 30 seconds there. Your next incline plank variation will be your Spider-Man. So stay in that same set position. You're gonna lift one leg and drive your knee to the outside of the same elbow and then alternate between sides, really working on those obliques. Your last plank variation is going to be that blast off plank. So as you see Johnny's gonna bend through his knees, drop towards those heels, and then shoot himself forward back to that high plank position. Again, slow movement here, drop into those heels and then blast off, catching yourself in that high plank position. Those are your 3 variations. Now remember, we did talk about wedging that jump squat in between. So make sure again you're on that stable surface. You're gonna line yourself up in front of that box or stairs, drop into those heels and then explode up onto that box and step back down. Your option, of course, if jumping is not for you, is to simply step up, step back down, and then alternate between those legs as you work through those 30 seconds. We've got 10 minutes of work. Let's get to it.
fight can easily die. Yes, I swear that it arrives. Will without you. Resist when I like the fire. Today, boys, I don't think I will keep quiet. 'Cause I will be fine. Will without you. I can feel it burning through like fire. Yeah, I can feel it burning through like
Ready to work that core? This block is 8 minutes of work, 5 exercises that you're going to repeat until time is called. Your goal, at least 2 rounds. Ready to work that core, D?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. For this block, you're going to want to grab 2 smaller objects. D brought in 2 boxes of tissues for this one. You can use Tupperware or whatever's available to you at home. We're going to start with 12 total reps of a V-up, over, and back. Dee's going to place her hands behind, hands stacked underneath her shoulders, shoulders nice and tall, feet together, legs straight, coming into that V-up, moving from side to side, making sure to clear those tissues. An option here, you can always remove one of those boxes and reduce the height. Next up, 12 total reps of a plank alternating tap. We're going to switch into our high plank position, hands stacked underneath the shoulders, feet hip width apart, belly button to spine, squeezing the glutes. We're going to alternate bringing one hand to the top of that pile and switching sides. An option here, you can drop down to the knees, but make sure to keep that core engaged. Next up, we got another dynamic V-up coming your way. 12 total reps of a V-up in and out. We're going to start with our feet to the outside of our pile of tissues, chest nice and tall, same starting position, raising those heels off the ground, over, bringing the feet together and back, keeping the legs straight the entire way through. Just like the other V-up, you can always remove one tissue box if you need to. Next up, we're going to put those tissue boxes to our side, 12 total reps of a plank pull through. Back into our high plank position, really having to squeeze those glutes so we can get that anti-rotation going in the hips. D is going to bring one tissue box, then the next, creating that stack on the opposite side. You've got 12 total reps here. You can always drop down to your knees if you need to. Last but not least, we have 12 total reps of a double crunch with a pass. We're going to take our tissues. We're going to start them off We're going to start with them in our hands for this. Legs fully extended, arms extended overhead, meeting in the middle, bringing our object to between our feet, back to our starting position, bringing it back to our hands. An option here, you can always bring your object to the knees to reduce the range of motion. 12 reps for each movement, 5 exercises. Let's get that core burning. Today, we're going to give you a little low-impact cardio to mix things up. This block's going to be 11 minutes of work, 2 total rounds. We're going to treat it like tread work with some pushes, base, and all-outs coming your way. D, you ready to get sweaty?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. We got a 1-minute push. We're going to start with a 180-degree squat to calf raise. Feet are going to be hip width apart, heavy in your heels, dropping into your squat, chest nice and tall, raising up, raising the heels off the ground to work those calves. On the way down in that squat, you're going to pivot on that left foot to rotate to the other side. Options here, you can always pivot while in a standing position if you need to. Next up, we have a 90-second base using an alternating reverse lunge. Feet on 2 separate train tracks, hip width apart, stepping back, dropping that back knee as low to the ground as you can, engaging your core the entire way through. Option here, you can always reduce the depth of that back knee. Next up, we got another 1-minute push, a crab hold with an alternating knee tap. Hands stacked behind you, underneath the shoulders, raising your hips off the ground. You're going to alternate bringing opposite hand to opposite knee. Option here, you can always drop those hips back down to the ground. We're going to then have 90 seconds of a base pace going right back to that alternating reverse lunge. We got to close things out with a 30-second all out. 30 seconds of a standing overhead reach to alternating knee tap. For this one, hands are going to be fully extended overhead. We're going to bring that knee up to about hip height, making contact in the middle. Remember, smile, pick up the pace if you're feeling it. An option here, you can slow things down, raise that knee a little bit lower. You've got 2 total rounds here. Let's get to work.
burns and the flames they rise. And don't you think that this fight could easily die? Yes, I swear that it'll rise, will without you. Resist but like the fire. Today, boys, I don't think I will keep quiet, 'cause I will be fine, will without you. I can feel it burning through like fire. Yeah, I can feel it burning through like
time to cool it down. This flexibility block is going to be 5 minutes of total work. We're going to be using a towel along with a yoga mat here. As you can see, Dee's grabbing the towel. We've got 20 seconds in 3 different positions of a lying hamstring stretch, making sure the lower back's making contact with the ground, shoulders relaxed. Dee's going to extend one leg up with that towel wrapped around. We're going to start with 20 seconds at the midline. Then at the 20-second mark, bring it to the outside of your shoulder, holding that stretch. Finally, 20 seconds to the inside here. Use your personal range of motion. Use what's available to you here. Then you'll switch sides. Next up, we've got a seated calf stretch. Coming up to a seated position, we're going to start with that towel still around midfoot, legs fully extended, shoulders tall, raising that heel slightly off the ground, emphasizing the calf. You'll have 20 seconds per side. Next up, 20 seconds per side of a hurdler stretch using that towel. We're going to keep one leg extended, bringing that second foot to the inside of the thigh. Shoulders tall once we've made sure we've held onto the grip, making sure we feel good about where that towel's held. Shoulders tall, really working that hamstring. Lastly, we're going to close things out with 20 seconds of a seated hamstring stretch. For this one, the towel is going to be wrapped around both feet. An added stretch for the lower back. You can always bring the shoulders forward, or if you want to emphasize the hamstrings a little bit more, bring the shoulders and chest tall and proud. You worked hard today. Enjoy your flexibility block.